Hello and welcome to Digital Leader Salon with me, Simon Wallfisch.
And me, Edward Rushton.
We are being very careful not to interrupt each other, which is why there's slightly awkward gaps after every sentence.
That's right, Simon.
Edward, let me ask you first, where are you exactly in the world right now?
Well, I'm not very far away from you, actually. I'm in the middle of Europe in a town called Herzogenbuchsee, which is in the middle of Switzerland. And where are you, Simon?
I'm in South London in a place called Croydon. Edward, what's it like being a Brit living in Switzerland as opposed to Britain right now? What would you say the best or the worst thing about it is?
Well, right now, the situation is getting better because they've started letting, they're going to let small-scale concerts happen from the 8th of June. So events will be allowed with an audience up to 300, but conditional on people being able to sit 2 meters apart from each other. So it doesn't actually mean that all concerts are now going to be able to happen, because people with concert halls seating 300 will probably only be allowed to let in 50 people or so, which might not be worthwhile financially. So we'll see. But things are getting better. Things are going to start happening. There are concerts that I have planned, some of them postponed from the spring, that are going to happen in the autumn. The way it looks now, things are looking up because there hasn't been a huge wave of infections. It's been going down all the time, so we're quite lucky. And we haven't had a very strict lockdown either. We've always been able to go out, and there's always been loo paper in the supermarkets.
Wow, well done, Switzerland. We're recording this on the 29th of May 2020. Right now, there is no hope whatsoever of any kind of musical performance happening with any kind of audience, but let's see if that will change in the UK.
No, I hope it does.
We'll see. We may not have a job in a year, but let's see. Anyway, so Edward, why don't you just give us the lowdown of the idea behind what we're doing right now?
Well, Simon, you and I have been working together as a lead partnership, a song partnership, for about 10 years now, and we've produced quite a lot of CDs during that time, which is work that I'm very proud of, and I'm sure you are too, because I think it's very valuable work. We've been able to record on CD a lot of repertoire that probably wouldn't be very in high demand in the concert hall. For example, music by Gottfried von Einem or Victor Ullmann or André Caplet. But we've also recorded some of the song repertoire which most people will know, Schumann and Brahms. And I think it's a great pleasure to be able to spend time with the greatest song composers ever, with you working at the songs, recording them, presenting them to our audience. And the idea of this, now that we're not able to meet and rehearse and perform concerts together, is that we just take individual songs from the repertoire that we've recorded and present them to our audience, talk about them a bit, illustrate certain points we want to make, points generally about what it means to be a song partnership, a duo, but also specific points about what's in the individual songs, some interesting things that Brahms does, for example, or Schumann. That's the idea of the Digital Leader Salon. And Simon, what song do you think we should talk about today?
Well, it would be great if we could talk about Verrat, which means betrayal, and that's a song by Brahms, which we recently recorded for Resonance Classics, and it is a hilariously fantastic, nail-biting romp of a song, and let's pull it apart and see what we can get out of it.
Well, it's actually quite interesting because it's a ballad. It's a song that tells a story. It's like a blood and guts kind of short movie or something. In the 19th century, before people were able to go to the cinema, they got their blood and guts entertainment from ballads. Either in recitation form, people would meet in their salons and read each other poetry, or they would sing songs. They would sing these ballads that these composers had set to music, and they all did it. And it's interesting that Brahms did it as well very late in his life. It's the kind of genre that you'd more associate with a young composer, I think. It's a late Brahms work, but it sounds like early Brahms. And you can just hear him pulling out all the stops and having so much fun with telling the story in the most visually exciting way possible. Yeah, it's really illustrative, very, very colorful, like Technicolor cinema in the 19th century. Simon, tell me some of the things about the song that you particularly like.
Well, what would be great if maybe I quickly zip through the story.
Yeah.
So, it's evening time. It's narrated by the first person, and I came home the usual way. I've been away for a while, and I heard as I was coming towards my house, I could hear the door creaking, and my girlfriend let out a man. I saw the figure of a man leave my house. And then she speaks. I hear her whispering, "Don't let me wait tomorrow. My husband is away." Knocks quietly on the window, and I'll let you in. And I overhear her saying this to another man. And of course, I'm a little bit cross about this, and I follow him onto the heath, and I challenge him to a duel. And this is not some burly hunk. This is in Sammetkleider, someone wearing some sort of velvety, fine, expensive clothing. He probably would have had some sort of sword with him, but it would have been more ornamental, I expect. Whereas I had my dagger or some horrendous big weapon that was possibly still a little bit, had been well used perhaps in the past. In any case, I don't think this chap had much of a chance. And there's a great moment where I say, I would like to bless your partnership. Deine Liebschaft will ich segnen. So in some way, I'm going to use my sword to bless your love with my girlfriend, my wife. And they have a big fight, or maybe not much of a fight, but in any case, he gets attacked and he kills him. And that's the end. So essentially, it's boyfriend comes home, finds girlfriend with other man, kills man, girlfriend sad, the end.
Yes, Simon, that's it. I think you've summed it up very well with that last sentence. I want to start at the end, just because girlfriend is sad, is what you said, how you closed your summary. This is one of my favorite things about this song. That in the text it says, yes, when dawn broke, Dawn saw on the heath lying there a dead man, and a false woman was very sad about this. And you can hear, of course, there's great sadness. It's in B minor. It's slow and low and searing music. But because it's narrated by the first person, as you said, I think more than the false woman's, the girlfriend's sadness, you can hear your own sadness. He's killed his rival, and instead of being triumphant and saying, now everything's fine, my honor has been restored, and we can get on with life again, you can just hear how devastated he is by the whole thing.
Just to illustrate that, it's interesting how you have at the very end, when it's just, as you say, me being sad and feeling pain about this, I've got a semitone Ja, Leide. Whereas when I'm talking about her sadness, zu einer falschen Leide, she gets a whole tone. Falschen Leide. But I get ja, Leide.
Yes.
And it's probably nice to think of those as two different perspectives of the grief.
That's very interesting point, Simon. Very good. I'd never thought of that. At the end of
It's not bullshit.
At the end of every strophe, the last two words are repeated. This is part of the kind of archaic feel of the poem. It's you can tell just by listening to the poetry the way it's formed that we're talking about an ancient story sometime in the Middle Ages when men went around in velvet clothes with swords. And so when you hear the last line of each strophe being repeated, you know, okay, this is something that's happened a long time ago. It's like an Errol Flynn movie or something. Anyway, so when Brahms repeats Ja Leide, there are three elements in that which illustrate your point and my point. So the first time, zu einer falschen Leide, as you said, it's a whole tone going down. It's quite high up in the voice. The whole melody is going upwards, and there's a crescendo. The second time, ja Leide, it's much lower. It's with a decrescendo. It's the semitone. It's also there are four elements. The Leide, the long note, is twice as long, and the piano accompaniment gets twice as slow. So yeah, Brahms has done that really well, and that's what makes me feel that he's talking about his own sorrow rather than his girlfriend's sorrow. And so, well done, Brahms, for getting that subtle point in there. And then my other favourite thing about this song is the last chord.
I know, I was just going to ask you.
It's so cool. It's like, and we when we performed this in concert, I was so happy to hear like all the people in the audience going,
Yeah.
because that's what he's doing. So he goes like this. I don't know if the sound quality is any good, but so okay. Zu einer falschen Leide, ja Leide. I mean, this is just typical young man's.
I just had to take the headphone out.
Young man's having fun with a gory story. I just love it, you know. It's just cheap tricks to shock the audience, and it works brilliantly. And it's so touching in a way because you can hear the old Brahms with his beard just being like a little boy, you know, playing with swords with his mates and stuff. Let's go a little bit back to the fight scene.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so what happens is after he's overheard his lover whispering, "Come and see me tomorrow again, my darling. My husband is far away." There's this massive change, and the more exciting the key change, the blacker it looks. So we've got this changes from B minor to E flat major, and so all this stuff here is what a crass change that is in the whole mood. So it's also very, very quiet here and getting very, very slow and quiet, and we don't know what's going to happen. And then you turn the page and suddenly it's in E flat minor. It's totally unexpected when our friend, the protagonist, says, "Just you wait, fancy man. I'm going to meet you on the heath and you're going to get what's coming." And then the music gets all totally. It's swashbuckling stuff. There are syncopated sforzandos on the fourth and the eighth quavers of the bar. Everything's going wrong. And then
show it to us, Edward.
I'll show you that. Okay, so lass ab vom Druck und Kurs, feins Lied, du schöne hinzerhammert Kleider. Ein Mann ward auf der Heide. Okay, so and it carries on, and then they have this fight, and you can hear the sword play. So this is great fun to play if you're a pianist. It's fun to play music that's about people killing each other. Okay, so it goes like this.
Fun.
Deine Liebschaft will. So you can hear bachi, bachi, bachi.
Yeah.
You can hear them crossing swords, and then
Let's hear the death chord.
the typical, 19th century romantic thing, the diminished seventh chord, when it can't get any more dramatic. You pull out your diminished seventh, fortissimo, and stick it in. There's nowhere to go after that. So you know something really, really, really exciting has happened, and that's a sword penetrating fancy man's chest.
But what I imagine is that that big chord is the sword going in, long pause, and then play the long, slow moment where the sword comes out slowly, and perhaps Mr. Fancy Man falls to his knees, maybe gripping his chest. They catch each other's eye for a moment, and then he drifts off into eternal death.
Yeah, and he's a bad man. You know where he's going. Anyway, so this is the sword going in.
And now out. And then we zoom out into the day, the morning light. What did the morning find? What did the sun find on the heath? The dead man.
Yeah, so...
Is there anything else we want to say about
I want
this
you,
song?
Simon, I want you to tell me about the change of voice that happens when the first two verses we hear our protagonist saying, okay, I came home, stood under the linden tree, and then I heard the door of my lover's house creak open, and I heard her talk.
She says, Lass morgen mich nicht harren, lass mich nicht harren, süßer Mann, wie hab ich dich so gerne. Ans Fenster klopfe leise an. My boyfriend is far away. He can feel her lips tickling his ear as she sings that. Ja, ferne. And perhaps a little kiss. Oh! And even that tiny intimate whisper can be heard from meters away, just by the lime tree where the boyfriend is standing watching this little silhouette scene unfold.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely toe curling. There's something really clever in that when it goes into inverted commas of when it's the girlfriend speaking, of course the voice goes up an octave. So we've started off quite low. Ich stand in einer La, when the protagonist is speaking. And then Lass morgen mich nicht harren. It's when she's speaking, it's all much higher. And it's also written sotto voce. And in the piano part, there's lots of rising and falling in the dynamic. And there's big phrasing marks there as well. And it's all very, very quiet and sort of whispered.
Very cool. Okay, so... we can only say now that we recommend that you listen to this song, which is such fun if you like blood and guts stories and stories of unhappy love triangles. Then this is right up your street, painted in gory Technicolor by our very own Johannes Brahms.
Dear friends, you can support us by buying our CD. The link will be here below the video, and you can now listen to Verrat from Resonance Classics right here, and we wish you all the very best, and please do get in touch and tell us which song from our recorded repertoire you would like us to talk about next. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much.